Karam, thanks. Datuk, Ganesh, Karam, and team members and team friends, welcome to the event. I think full house. I think a lot more haven't come. Maybe it's full house. So thank you for coming to the event, and we have very interesting things to listen from Datuk, Ganesh, and Karam. I hope that you enjoy your evening with us today, and also thank to our supporters, IBM and Big Orange. And Big Orange is, I think they want to me to say something that the #1 free Chinese weekly. I guess you will learn or read more about them later on. Thank you to all our media partners, the one that you see their magazine and all these articles. Thank you to Clientele. Mana Clientele for giving us this place and then sponsoring some.
Yeah. Just introduce yourself to me.
My name is Lau Fong Yi. I'm from a unit in IBM called ISP and Developer Relations. ISP stands for Independent Software Vendor. So I think IBM is a stranger to this group. Okay, many didn't expect that we are here in the entrepreneur space. We are very strong in enterprise as well as in the ISP market. But the reason why I'm here and we are doing a little bit of sponsorship is to talk to you about our new program called the IBM Global Entrepreneur Program that we are launching for startups.
Now, basically, I mean, just some background for us. I guess when, as a media, when DNA started, and we're starting with a model where our content is for free, right? And very fast, those who are in the content space or those who understand the content space, and I see we've got a major media owner here, also Singh, who's one of the shareholders in Red Berry Media, right? And also is a team council member, a very passionate and active one. But people tell you that, hey, you're going to have an anchor event, you have to have an event, and you apparently make money from events. So the four of us, the three of us who started are just journalists, right? Hacks. So you just do content. Then you got to start learning about business development skills or how to ask people for money as well. So we said, okay, like this event thing is so important, let's just have an event. And we obviously wanted to partner with an industry player. It would have either been TeAM or PCOM. But we picked TeAM because TeAM has been doing this before also very long ago, and they are more with the startup scene, with the smaller entrepreneurs. Whereas PCOM, Ganesh is a very strong council member of PCOM. He's been with them for a long time. It has a few startups like him, but mostly it's mature companies, enterprise-based technology. So we thought we would work with TeAM on this. So and that's why we partnered with them. And so this event will be a monthly series. We're going to try it for 6 months first and see how it goes. And really, I personally don't care if the crowd is only 30 or 40 people or 20 people. I think it's the quality of the interaction, right? And the learning and sharing and the anguish that is poured out is more important than the sheer numbers. There were like close to 200 people on the RSVP list, right? Which is great. You rarely get that many. You normally get 50 and then on the day like 200 people turn up, right? So maybe ours will be different. They disrupt us already. 200 people registered, but only 100 turned up, which is cool also. But really, it's quality over quantity. So in subsequent events, if less people come in, you turn around and say, hey, less people came. It doesn't matter. It's what you come for and what you get out of it, right? The relationship you form or the knowledge you pick out. And that's very important. We want to make sure that each and every time we have something, people go away with something that they didn't know before, and you get a question answered, or you maybe even go back with more questions that you may follow up outside and try to get those answered. I surely don't want you to go back and say, I knew it all already, or everything that was said I've heard before, nothing new. That would mean that we have failed then, and we don't want to do that. And really, as a country, Malaysia, we're all on Team Malaysia, and we absolutely cannot afford to fail, right? Because we're competing with every other country out there for ideas, for talent, for entrepreneurs, for funding also. And all these things, the funny thing about funding, it will come to where the ideas and the talent and the passion is. And if we have it, you know, the money will come. If we say there's not enough money in Malaysia, there's a lot of money outside there, it will find us if it knows that this is, you know, the magnet, this is where the people are crazy, they will make things happen, right? So we want to just be the catalyst for that to bring it out a bit more. So that's the reason for this thing. And of course, the first topic, we wanted it to be a bit, not controversial, but a bit in your face, right? So that's why it's actually not controversial. We just said that with Digital Malaysia coming up, is MDEC still relevant or not? And the flip side to that is MDEC actually has a lot of people who are in this ecosystem, And a lot of them, I think, are very good people. And if actually MDEC disbands, all of you have got great people to hire. I don't think they want to go and work in the comfortable, big companies. They probably want to work in startups like yours, or those who are big 1, 2, 3 years out in the space. Ganesh will end up picking up a few of them also. So maybe it's a good thing if MDEC gets disbanded. I don't know, with digital Malaysia, but we'll see what Badlisham has to say about that, and how he links it together with with phase 3 of the MSC vision also. So I probably just, with the leading intro like that, I guess it's good for you to start, and then with Ganesh can be the second one to speak and share his thoughts on the same subject also. And Ganesh is interesting because he just made it up to now with very little help, at least on the surface, right, from the outside, from MDEC or from a lot of the activities that the government does. Because he's in the consumer, right, space on the internet, right? So and that's really a regional. He's making it a regional play, but the consumer out there doesn't care if you have any government backing or not. If they like the value proposition, they are there already, to be your customer in whatever way you monetize them. The word customer is used loosely. But let me just start with Sham now for 20 minutes. And I mean, if you want to talk for less also, that's fine. But make sure it's interesting, it's insightful, and it's it's challenging also. And then we'll take it from there. Ask questions. Somebody said can ask critical questions. Absolutely, only critical questions. You're at a DNA event, right? No boring questions. So I will let you all come and beat you up, okay? No boring questions for sure, please. Okay, because we've all invested our time. Our single most precious asset is our time. So don't trouble all of us with boring questions. So go ahead, Shah, and then we'll go with Ganesh.
Thank you, Karam. Firstly, my apologies. Actually, I didn't know what time it started. I've been to KL, Saturday and back, so my apologies. But I had agreed to come because I think it's necessary to always have a conversation. And I thought the topic was interesting. Well, let me kind of put it this way. There's ways to influence whether it's direct or indirect, and you want controversial, yeah. And I think it will really strip to the details. I gather, I may be wrong, you have every right to oppose this thing, but I gather half of you will not be here if there was no initiative. Okay? Seriously, I think half of you may not be here. Of course, I may be wrong.
No, I mean, DNA is here because of the MSC also.
And so we go back to 96, where really the ambition was to say, listen, for us as a country to move it up, we have to be a player ourselves. Yeah? Not necessarily the best, of course we want to be the best, but we have to be a more serious player in the development of technology, in this instance specifically IT, software and services. And so MSC was born. But the ecosystem was so much different. Yeah? Remember 1996? It was so different from what it is today. And I'd like to do this. I always ask, how many of you have at least one mobile devices with you now? Come on, bullshit. All of you have a mobile device. Right? Now, take into consideration all the devices that you bought for your wife, your kids, your grandkids, etc. How many of you have more than 6 devices? Come on. You didn't buy for your wife. You didn't buy for your kids. You didn't buy 3 for yourself. So predominantly these things, as we all know, has only happened over the last 2-3 years. So the environment today is so different from 96. Yeah? And even then there's no wireless, and internet was still nascent in that aspect, even in Malaysia, etc. So I think when we created it, we wanted to make sure that we tried to have an encouraging environment, yeah, for both large as well as smaller, large investors as well as smaller startups to come to the fore. And of course, today things are much different. Yeah? Everybody is hooked up. Malaysians are consuming. People talk about their grandkids at 4 or 3 years old doing this to the TV because that's what they've been doing to their iPad. Buka-buka ni kan. So tak heran lagi lah. So the environment certainly has changed. But what has occurred over the last couple of years is that enabling environment, whether we did it directly or indirectly, I think it has helped Malaysia move what we are today in terms of technology creation and companies where we are today. So the statistics still says in 96 there was only 300 IT companies. Yeah? Today, if you count the TeAM membership, it's more than 3,000. MSC itself, those that are active, is at 2,200. Yeah? And of course, a lot of them are startups. And during that course, I remember as well, even when I came in 2006, we were doing business plan competitions at university, encouraging entrepreneurship. Yeah? Encouraging the concepts of entrepreneurship even at that level. In 2006, I think, yeah, the pre-seed money was given to MDEC to kickstart that environment so that we can fund all these startups, ideas into startups, so that that environment feeds into the ecosystem. Obviously, this is a very challenging industry, and it's the most unforgiving industry because there's no protection for us at all. Forget about quotas, right? You are not only competing among yourselves, you're competing with others and money share in Malaysia, but you're competing with Malaysians who are used to consuming other types of solutions that they don't care where it comes from, right? And we are asking you to go abroad as well. So again, this environment is very unforgiving, and so the death rate, as we all know, is very high. That's why the encouragement of more entrepreneurs into the ecosystem is key as we look at it. Because we know some of you may fail, and we hope that guys who have tried will try again. Because Malaysia doesn't have something other countries have also, specifically India, which is a large diaspora who has gone abroad, made it on their own, whether it is in medical devices or electronics, etc., and then slowly moved into technology, and then of course into the internet business space, who's now contributing back, yeah, both not only in money, but also in knowledge. And that's very key as well, something that we don't have. Maybe it's the size of our population or the history of our diaspora who has gone out that didn't do that. My seniors that I looked up during the IT vendor days, right, when they retired, they didn't give back to the industry per se. They opened up restaurants. Yeah? With their retirement fund, they opened up restaurants. You know, they might golf, you know, maybe doing real estate. And maybe, you know, those are not the kind of guys we want today. We want all the kinds of guys.
Yeah.
But my point is that that level of people that I looked up to, my seniors, so to speak, didn't come back and contribute to the industry itself. So a lot of it had to be recreated. And along the way, of course, we make mistakes. We tried, you know, we failed. Well, we didn't be that successful. You know, we facilitated, advocated with the government. And today, at least on the PC side, I'm very pleased that Cradle is taken off. Right? That's part of something that has to go off. The other thing that we realize as we move this is, of course, the right types of skills. Now, you know, there will always be challenges with getting talent. Yeah? It's not only in Malaysia, you will tell you so. Yeah? Even if we train, it's not the right skills and yada yada yada. So those will constantly be a challenge moving forward based on our industry, because the available talent that you may want is for specific skills that is experience-based. The guy must have 3 years of knowledge, you know, doing this stuff. And again, we don't have, over this period, the large amount of people who have worked in this industry for a number of years who have come out again and again into the talent pool. Yeah. So it is not an easy environment also. So I'm just stating facts that you guys know that. But we continue to look at programs to ensure that we try to nurture and plug the gaps as best as we can. So I began saying that he was doing an event at our Knowledge Development Center. So finally there's a physical center in Cyberjaya to actually house some of the knowledge programs that we do with our partners on the skill set that they want, so they can roll it out in a physical center. Beyond that, so that center can accommodate about 3,000 max a year, yeah, because it's limited space time. But beyond the 3,000 a year that physical center does, MDEC itself, yeah, actually touches another 9,000 other students that we do with other program providers, skills providers, training providers. Yeah? That's just us. Yeah? So that doesn't count others who are doing on the outside. So as much as we're trying to catch up, I guess, in this world, even in other parts of the world will never be able to catch up as much as possible. Now that's great from an industry development perspective, not great. Those are activities we do under the multi-fiscal corridor from an industry development perspective. And we'll continue to do that under the MSC. And the MSC, when it was the vision, was saying, well, you know, it was a test bed and then it flows up. Who remembers that in 96? Right? Only you do. So I did too. But they didn't know the future environment. They did not. And of course, we had a global economic crisis, we had other challenges, etc., etc. The environment wasn't as conducive then to accept these kinds of technology as we envisioned. You know, we tried e-village. What happened? We tried Jaya. Those are history. But you know, by and large, people and companies were important because you know what is a great idea today is obsolete tomorrow. Yeah? So the encouragement of companies and entrepreneurs is key to keep that innovation ecosystem will keep going on. But once again, that is still predominantly industry development. Okay. So what we said, take it out into the world. Things have changed today. Yeah? I mentioned about devices, no brainer, right? Broadband, it's a must. Yeah? Other things have changed in Malaysia, yeah? Which is different from 96, which is the so-called transformation program. Yeah? And truly for us, it is a different. Yeah? It's not only in difference in terms of projects, but it is different in terms of approach.
So, Exhibit 1. The annual report for the ADB.
So it's very like 10 questions.
Reading it.
So why does this difference make a difference? Yeah? Because now the environment, the method of doing things is more conducive for accepting the change. Yeah? It's no longer about, I'll think about it, yeah. Oh, now got KPI moving backwards, we better deliver, and that means these things must come. I have to consider it. Yeah? And by the way, there's a target that we have to accomplish. That's why they will have to look at it one way or another. And of the 133 EPs, when we look at it, 86 of them will use one form or another technology. Yeah? It's enabled by it. So that has changed in terms of approach and also opportunity. Okay? And so when we started to look at it as well, we said, well, that's the easy part. That is supply and demand. Yeah? And we could do that as well. What the government wanted, obviously, is a fast transformation, game changer by the year 2020. Yeah? So all these ETPs, projects all came out. But still, it may not be enough if there was an accelerated use of IT. No-brainer to people like us, right? Look at your SME uptake. Okay, what is it? 20% of our SMEs have website. I think what 70% of them actually use transact one way or another on e-commerce. So you know, just more usage, more productive use of technology will actually help accelerate. So to us, it's quite no-brainer, but it has to be concerted effort. The other thing is, should be consuming a lot of things. Yeah, the more broadband you put there, the more you want, the more devices you buy, the more you consume, the more stuff you look at YouTube. You know, we just consume. Okay, we play games, good for you. You know, pay for them, etc., etc. But the environment is not as conducive for people who don't actively want to actually use a productive use of what's available. What I mean is, again, my example is perhaps my wife. You know, you give her more and she will just consume. What do people consume? Entertainment, infotainment, information. Yeah? Because that's what we've been taught. It's like a TV but on steroids and you can move it around. Yeah? Those of you who really want to take advantage of it and want to start our business, that's your own desire. Yeah? But again, the entrepreneurship spirit in Malaysia is far in between. Yeah? So we'd like to see that actually an environment be looked at more and more, so that more Malaysians says, not only the business side, that is the one side of production. The other thing is, societal and NGOs and social entrepreneurs who say, listen, I want to actually help the society. more and more. Besides going to the ground and doing things, why can I be more efficient? The reach is more by actually using the internet, digital technology, mobile capabilities. So yes, our role is to see how we can enable more of those things. You will still do the work, but can we enable more of that? The last part is the SME side. As an example, we cannot say, hey, go and buy SME solutions. I was in the Bangah for many years, and we've pushed at least 3 strategies over a period of 18 years to try and sell IT solutions to SMEs. And every time it failed. IBM, I don't know whether it works now, I bet you it fails also today. Because SMEs don't really adapt well to complexity. You try to sell to SME, you see that. They care about money and making money, that's fine. I'm talking about the traditional SMEs, like not you guys. The manufacturers, the bread and butter guys. It's not easy. And I think a lot of it has to do with complexity. What is easy for us is complex to them. So buying a hardware is just a piece of paper that says I've got 3 machines and 2 pieces of software. But they know behind it is alamak. Besides opening the box, what do I do with it? That means I need an IT guy. Alamak. I can't even speak the language, so I don't know how to hire. Even after that, the guy says things I don't understand, and so on and so forth. That's still the traditional issues with SMEs. So what do? We say you bodoh, or we educate you, or we make it easier for you. And of course, what has changed over the last couple of years? Mobility, cloud computing, software as a service, pay as you use. Those things have changed over the last couple of years compared to during my time. We didn't have those things. By and large, we want to enable, work with partners, whether they're service providers, solution cloud providers, solution providers, and of course trade associations to see whether we can enable an environment, incentivize them if you will, so that we make it easier for their members SMEs to use it. How they use it, that's entirely up to that ecosystem. So all these things point to how we can again accelerate the use of digital technology to help generate an economic activity for Malaysia. So there's a target, right? 2020, right? And we'll be backwards. And all these are the economy that's powered by digital technology. It's not enabled by digital technology, enabled by the internet, enabled by IT. The e-commerce portion, the m-commerce portion. The productive use of for people's benefit, all that can be enabled even further by extensive use of technology. So then we looked at, again, what is being invested. Yes, we want more broadband. But I'm very excited about what the government has decided with regards to putting wireless in the school. I'm so excited. Because it removes the children away from the computer labs. Today, if your kids are in school, the computer in school, they have to go to the computer lab. And we say, see, that's smart school. But it was the only option then. When we started, that was the only option. But now, of course, with other technology available, we can move the kids out of the computer lab into the traditional classroom, into the canteen, into the library, into the playground, where we want to. And why is that exciting for kids? Because as you know, they are the next generation of not only your workers, but the idea generators for tomorrow. And they are coming on stream next 5 years. They are the ones who are going to university. They are the ones who are going to explore the world. So I'm very excited about what is the possibility for that for kids. And because it's wireless, it extends beyond the schools. Now it extends to the surrounding community. So now access is available to the community around the schools. And of course, the community is most concerned about their children. So if the children are on it, I guess the community will also play a part. And once that community becomes more than just the children, it includes the community and parents, what else can we do with it? So the possibility are almost endless investing.
This is within that 2-kilometer range per school, right?
Yes, yeah, whatever the radius is for the school, right? And whatever devices is available to access on it. But that frees Malaysia's society from the shackles of fixed elements moving forward. So again, more opportunity. So the question about digital Malaysia is, what else can we do to enable greater use of digital technology? Not just the traditional one. Yes, we want it to be the SMEs. Yes, we want it to be in enterprises. Yes, we want great solutions to come up from you. Yes, there are talent issues. Yes, we want you to export. Yes, we want social entrepreneurs to take advantage for the betterment of build apps for their society, betterment of citizens, open 40, those kind of things. So I guess a lot of these things can be done. So we could have just said, well, we're going to do it. Yeah. But because the mood of the country is, let's change this. Yeah. We've announced the transformation program. We will take this bold step as well and says, yes, we're serious about it, and it's more than a brand, we'll commit to the program. Yeah? And that's important. Because that commitment will, because this is a long-term program, right? It's not today, tomorrow, next year. Right? It is a long-term program so that there is commitment. This is the MSC, the 15 years up and down, to change Prime Minister, economic crisis, it went on. Yeah? Because once government makes the commitment on the program, inshallah, hopefully, they continue with it. Beyond my years, I'll tell you, beyond my years as well, so that we can actually all leverage on it. So that's the reason as well. It is an extension. I guess it's a natural evolution of what the MSC was in '96. The environment has changed, right? The commitment to actually focus on this new opportunity had to be given a new name. It's looking at the digital economy, accelerating the use of this. I don't know whether it makes sense to you. I don't know if it's a good start, and perhaps it's a good start for the dialogue.
Yeah, it's a good start for the dialogue. I think with all these changes you're talking about, and with MSC now also in the third phase, and I think with the ETPs seem to have been a big enabler also for capitalists, right, to further look at this and take it to the next level. Because as the way the MSC was going, it was very much about entrepreneurs and about businesses, right, trying to create regional or global champions. Now with the digital Malaysia, you get the sense that they want to try to create this catch-all phrase that opportunities for all. Hence the 1,000 startups and the press release that we just gave, one thing talking about for the budget next week. They hope that the government will incentivize, give all of us incentives, right, to create our own personal websites, to try to monetize, which to me is a block idea, to create blogs. So MDEC is asking the government to give us incentives so we get a tax exempt or whatever. So it's very much trying to bring it down to individual level, while MDEC is doing things, at the enterprise and the startup level. So it's very interesting. You're just trying to cover all aspects of the whole opportunity which is there. But I guess I'll go with just you.
So Sean, you're talking about how proud you are that Cradle has started on the VC front. Let me ask you.
Startup front.
By providing funds and so are you happy with the level of VC or angel investor that you think?
You know the answer.
No. If you are not,
no.
How is Digital Malaysia approaching this?
I think it's more of an MSC question per se. Yeah. Because Digital Malaysia more like these are outcomes and then projects. Yeah. So the enabling portion, the supply portion is still the multi-risk corridor. So the question was VCs and all that. It was a question we asked at the Perdana Leadership also this morning. So he was there as well. Yeah, she presented, and I asked the same question. We're not happy. We're not satisfied. Yeah, with the situation with regards to venture funds available. From a government perspective, I think I've been saying this since 2010 to the industry that be ready. The government is going to slowly but surely slow down the availability of natural grants, direct grants. Yeah? It is an unsustainable model. We will still come up with grants. If we had 10 programs 2 years ago, believe me, we will start to switch off 3 of them. Yeah? Continue to fund 6 of them, and maybe increase 1, etc. But by and large, it has to be also private sector involvement. And that is the venture institutions. However, I also don't blame them as well, because quality deal flows are not there yet. Yeah. Those of you in the venture, you will know that quality deal flows are not there yet. And if you take a snapshot of 10 years, yeah, those of you who are successful don't need venture funds. The ones that started 10 years ago don't need venture funds. They need other things. Yeah.
Correct that. We needed it then, but we only got the funding later. We only got offered the funding later when we didn't need it.
You didn't need it. Wow, very bad. Very bad. And straight about that, good point.
I agree, and not to say there's no companies. Yeah. It's just that because of the expectation and the size of the fund that is being pushed today, it requires more quality deals into the ecosystem than it was 10 years ago. Yeah. Sorry. But 10 years ago, the government put in 120 million, at least under MDEC or MSC Venture Capital. Sorry, by the time I came in, no money. Yeah. So if I looked at the records, we funded at that time through venture funding, equity funding. Yeah? People like Redstone, okay, invested and we sold off. And big, now they're on their own. We funded companies like STEM Life. Okay, we funded guys who went up and got bankrupt, sold out. Yeah. But there were, I guess, enough deals to look at that. Yeah. But there was only one fund. Now there's supposedly many funds. MAVCAP has got billions of dollars and they're doing funds of funds. Yeah. And they're looking for quality leads. And this is not enough. Over a period of this time, I guess our ecosystem is not there yet to actually generate the amount of quality leads that is help sustain, yeah, and build the ecosystem. Yes, the question is what do we do that? Next question. So asked this morning. Yeah. The first thing is, of course, lean down on direct grants. Yeah, some of them. Let's look at some of these 10 programs and we'll start leaning down. The other thing is to start saying, well, maybe it's moving from an incubator basis to an accelerator basis. So, yes, we agree with that program, and we're building capabilities to look at quality companies with accelerators, with service partners, with large organizations who come together and says yes. Yeah. It's not a wide incubator, perhaps, but it is the accelerator concept. Because we think perhaps 10 years is enough for this next generation to lead. Of course, with the internet it becomes much different. The companies are brave enough to come in, whether it's a 3 months, 6 months program, make it happen, and then see where that takes you. Rather than constantly funding it. Will it work? Well, that's one of the parts that we're taking.
I think just to correct you, Sham, because I just interviewed Jamaluddin Bujang last week, and they've got 100 million ringgit left, which is for under the RM9. And although we are halfway through RM10, right, they've got 100 million ringgit left to spend, and they have asked for 300 million ringgit. And he gave me the indication that MOF has verbally said that they will get 100 million, and they're looking for actually 350 million. So what they're going to do is they're going to seed another. What he's going to do is he's going to hollow out MAVCAP. There are already 4 teams formed, with these investment managers, and there is the promise that they will get 25 million US each from MAVCAP. But to earn that, they got to go out and look around the region, not just in Malaysia, for people to give them 25 million US matching, and then they go out and they become VCs. So if his plan goes well, sometime next year there will be 4, a quasi-private. I mean, they will operate privately. Actually, VCs out there with each with 50 million US dollars each to look for guys, not just from you, but they're going to be looking regional also. Because he said the lesson learned from the previous OSP OSP, right? Program is where they seeded other VCs was that it's too restrictive if you tell them just to keep the money and just invest in Malaysian startups. As painful as it is for me and for some of us to hear that, that has been their experience, the people who've been holding the money, who want to give it out to us, but they couldn't. And now with this next batch that's coming out next year, the great thing is that the government has finally listened, and the money that's going to be given to MAVCAP is in the form of equity. So the government is not giving MAVCAP a loan to say pay us back. So the government is giving them, give us a stake in you, so that now MAVCAP can become a bit more bold and adventurous in the companies and the type of businesses they are going to invest in. I think it's a great step forward. You know, I think this message has been pushed to government for the last 5 years. They've listened now, and it's great that hopefully the full amount of money comes, so that then, you know, you will see, you know, 4 companies out there, Malaysian, you know, VCs. You know, hopefully they'll have a Malaysian buyers, but they will look anywhere lah. But there'll be money out there for us then. So it's interesting. But in the meantime now, we'll just move on to Ganesh, who interesting comment he made about the money not being there. And one thing I would ask all of you when he needed it, Ganesh is so interesting because I think his success was also underpinned with the fact that, you know, Tan Sri Vincent Tan took a bet on him, and like this young, you know, freckle-faced Indian boy, you know, back then, you know, with his like 21 years old, his energy, and kept investing in him even when some of the businesses, a lot of .com companies busted, right? But he still kept faith in Ganesh and kept giving him money and making the acquisition of Friendster, right? Is because of Ganesh managing to convince Vincent Tan that it's a good deal, that the money came out. And so many good things have flowed from there. Malaysia now has a recognition in the Silicon Valley because of that single deal he made, and subsequently with some of the other things our entrepreneurs are doing. So I cannot underestimate, I think we shouldn't underestimate the impact of Vincent Tan supporting him. And I'm bringing this up also because at some point I've told Ganesh that I want Vincent Tan to come and speak to all of us. Would you like to listen to him?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're going to give him 1 hour though, right? And then we can shoot our question to him, and just it'll be interesting to hear him. How many people really would like to see Vincent Tan here for one of our episode series? I need to see a lot more hands than that before I invite you. Yeah, it'll be interesting, right? So we'll try to get him there. But you've got to make sure, don't laugh when he says Google, okay? Because the guy says Googles. And I have to bite my lip not to laugh. He giggle.
You won't laugh, but can he giggle?
He can giggle silently then, okay? But he was a good sport. I told him about it and he didn't give me a hard time. But anyway, now we'll move on to Ganesh, talking about the same issue and Ganesh's perspective of this, whether he thinks, you know, MDEC could still be relevant with digital, you know, Malaysia already honest. And I guess DNA broke the first story now, the first EPP to be launched.
I think I just want to make one comment. When I saw, when Karam actually asked me to come and speak on Digital Malaysia, I didn't know the topic was going to be, is MDEC still relevant with Digital Malaysia? Because, you know, if you look at the topic, Digital Malaysia is championed by MDEC. So if there is a Digital Malaysia, definitely MDEC is still relevant. That said, I mean, since we were talking about venture capital, before Vincent Tan actually invested in my company, I actually did approach MSC right? And my business model, which is how we started, was I wanted to give the cyber cafe software, which I was selling for 3,000 ringgit. I wanted to give it for free. And there was a French guy then who was the entrepreneur in residence, who kind of like told me, what, you're selling this software and you want to give it for free? Are you crazy? 2000. And
I wasn't there.
and what happened was when I actually bought Friendster, he actually dropped me an email. He said the biggest mistake he made in his career as a venture capitalist in MSC was not investing in my company.
Charmaine sounds good.
Huh?
Is his wife Charmaine who's having corporate firm?
I don't know what his wife's name is. Anyway, the problem with venture capitalists in this country is that they're still too risk averse. And I don't believe that just spinning them off into private entities is going to help that. Because the problem with our venture capitalists here is that they want a great return without taking the risk. Venture capital is a business. Every venture capitalist on a big hit gets once a minimum of 25% IRR. Right? So if there is a big hit, if there's a medium hit, there's a small hit, they want a minimum of 25% returns every year. When you expect 25% in returns every year, you have to be at least 3 times or 4 times more take more risk than a bank. But if you don't take that much risk and still want to become a 25% IRR, you've got your head in the wrong place. And that's the difference between Vincent Tan and a venture capitalist. The thing about Vincent Tan is he took risks. At that time, 12 years ago, he knew that the internet was going to be big. Right? He believed in it, he saw Amazon's, eBay's of the world becoming big, and he took the risk. And He didn't, to be honest, if you ask him, you can ask him if he comes here, you know, he still says today, he didn't know what he was investing in. Right? He just knew it was going to be big, and he took a bet and invested in 30 companies, one company will make it.
I think he invested in you also.
Yeah.
He invested in you.
Correct. But that was the chance. He took a bet that out of 30 people, he invests in one will make it, or two will make it. Right? So that's the risk he took. Right? So anyway, that's a bit on the venture capital scene. I think what you need in a venture capitalist is not spinning off the venture capitalist, but add entrepreneurship into the venture capitalist. So if you have a fund with 3 people, make sure 1 or 2 are entrepreneurs. Then you will make a difference.
I don't think so. You know, the other day I met some entrepreneurs, some VCs at the TeAM open house. Just as a aside quickly, and they were saying that entrepreneurs always complain, right? They're not risky enough. And then one of them said, it would be great, right, to have an experiment. You give a bunch of money to entrepreneurs and tell them you are the VCs and start investing. And he said they'll probably start investing in every idea they hear, and there's a finite amount of money, right? And soon the money will run out, then you've got to maintain those investments also, right, to keep feeding them. And at the end of it, he said they probably will lose their pants, you know. And I thought that was an interesting scenario. Okay. At some point, we can have that experiment.
I just got one more comment on that. I don't agree with that. That's a probability that venture capitalists say. But if you go to the valley and look at every venture capitalist, whether it's Kleiner, whether it's Sequoia, etc., all of them are venture capitalists themselves. All of them have been entrepreneurs. So venture capitalists say that to convince the government to continue giving them the funds.
They convinced me also. I should have cross-checked that.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
I think I'm not done yet, so I can see.
You know? So the thing is, back to the topic of the day. I think we digressed a bit.
Yeah.
So definitely, with Digital Malaysia, MDEC is actually more relevant. In fact, I was actually very excited when I heard about Digital Malaysia, to be honest, because I've told Sham a few times. I don't know whether you remember, in a few conferences, I told him that the problem with our IT industries and the problem with MDEC at that time, I would say, is we're too focused on B2B business. We're too focused on selling software to businesses. We're not focused enough on consumers, right? And if you look at all the biggest IT companies in the world, they're all consumer-facing companies. Apple is consumer-facing, right? Facebook is consumer-facing. Google is consumer-facing. All the biggest IT companies in the world make their money from consumers.
Even the Chinese players, right?
Right, Tencent. Right? It's all making money from consumers. And the reason is when you're facing the consumer and when you're selling products to the consumer, you are actually making, you're at the top layer. You're getting all the value. Right? Whereas if you're just selling hardware to a business, etc., you're just at the bottom end. You're getting the bottom value, and it's very easy for you to be cut out. Right? I'll give you one example. Right? Apple has a market cap of 600 billion US. What does it do? It takes a hardware developed in Taiwan, adds its software in it, adds its logo on it, and sells the hardware at 5 times the value of what the Taiwanese guys sell to them, right? So actually, consumer-facing internet will actually change the face of the IT industry. And if you look on the other end, if you look at our problem with employment or human resource, the thing is, when you ask our fresh grads, or you ask people who are going to university whether they want to take IT, most of them say no. Why is that? Because they see IT as a secondary industry. They want to become doctors, they want to become lawyers. If an IT personnel they perceive as somebody who's going to service your computer or provide software to you, but not facing the end consumer. So I was actually very excited when I heard about the Digital Malaysia initiative. But again, like any Malaysian initiative, I guess execution is key. We always come up with great big plans, great big ideas, but the devil is in the detail. The devil is in how we execute. And then what happened is in one particular panel, I won't mention which panel, I heard that there's going to be a lab that we need to sit through this. Right? A 5-week lab that we're going to sit through to come up with that idea. And the minister was actually chairing that panel. I don't know whether you remember. And I said, you know what? A 5-week lab's not going to make it. Just do a 3-day, and they were like 20 entrepreneurs on the table. Do a 3-day panel, right? And do a 3-day retreat, right? And get everybody here to contribute their ideas and come up with a plan and launch a plan in 2 weeks. forget about a 5-week plan and then, you know, because if you wait, and I think it was going to be 3 to 6 months to launch. I think 3 to 6 months.
It's a waste of money, 5 weeks.
It's a waste of money, it's a waste of time. The only people who are going to sit down in the lab is salesmen who want to sell their product. No CEO, no entrepreneur is going to have 5 weeks to sit in the lab. I don't. Do you guys do?
What the consultants lah, BCG. Hey, anybody from BCG, McKinsey, better defend your industry, yeah?
Right? So I think that was the first disappointment I had with Digital Malaysia. So what I did was I actually wrote a long email. So I remember to Datuk Badlisham and a few other guys in MDEC, I said, you know, 5 week labs are not going to make it. So I wrote a long email on what, you know, what we can do, etc. So that's why I'm quite passionate about Digital Malaysia. And I'm here today not to criticize MDEC. Yeah. I'm here today because I believe that Digital Malaysia is important for the success of this country, and I believe that with a more consumer orientated, it will help all of us, whether the technopreneurs, whether the MSC Malaysia companies. Right? Because if they have consumers that use IT, then people who serve the consumer, even businesses that are IT enabled, will actually be more successful. Right? So I think it's important to look at the detail. And I actually have got a lot of reading here. You know, those days when I used to go with panels with MDEC, with people from MDEC, I used to always envy because you guys always had this stack of reports, information pack. So I happened to hire a PR person from MDEC, so now I get one myself. So I mean, well,
I think that's indirectly contributing to his success.
So what happened was, so then I looked at a bit on, I mean, to really understand what Digital Malaysia is, and to really delve down, we need to actually have, we need to actually be a bit critical on the details, so that we can have a better direction and everybody has a better direction. We need to understand what it is and be able to execute it so that everybody can work together when, on execution, whether it's the private sector, whether it's the government sector. So I looked at your questions answered in the newspaper was, why do we need Digital Malaysia? Well, Malaysia has already been all the normal mumbo jumbo bullshit. Right? And so forth. And so on and so forth, yeah. And you know, ultimately we want to know, what does that mean to us? So and I looked at this, and being from the e-commerce field, right, and I saw that, so I'm in payments, right? So servicing online games, servicing e-commerce. So definitely as an entrepreneur, if e-commerce does well or if online games does well, with increasing internet broadband penetration, my business will do well, right? So I looked at it and said, hey, which part of this interests me the most? And I looked at it and I said, oh, at the same time, so there's part on SMEs. E-commerce will allow SMEs to tackle the existing challenge of low SME exports by gaining a better footprint in global markets. Very interesting. Then I looked at what MDEC has done on e-commerce, and I realized that they have this MDEX, right? And then we looked at the, you see, the thing about the internet and the thing about e-commerce is, it's very easy to gauge the success of an internet project or website. Because all you have to do is check the traffic rank on Alexa. So people can say it's hugely successful, right? And the government can say it's hugely successful, but if you check on Alexa and it's not hugely successful, it's not, no matter what they say.
What's the verdict?
So the Alexa ranking of mdex.my, on the Alexa, it is the 1.6 million most visited website in the world.
1.6 million.
Right?
We're in the top billion one, that's great.
And it is the 15,000 most popular website in Malaysia. Right? So, you know, in the top 100, there are tons of other more popular e-commerce websites. Right? So, really, having an e-commerce project like this, to be honest, is not going to help e-commerce. So then you may ask, what can help e-commerce, right? So we know projects don't help because there are already e-commerce websites out there that are doing it. Right? There are tons of this, Lelong, there's so many of these, which are run by the industry. The government doesn't need to create another white elephant project because there's already one out there, right? Especially since to get any transactions working on this, right? At the rate of 15,000 Alexa ranking is not going to work, right? And And I checked the volume, there was a press release on volumes, it was like 25 million ringgit, expected to achieve 25 million ringgit last year. 25 million ringgit on e-commerce is no big deal, that's my monthly volume for one company, right? So what can help e-commerce then? What can Digital Malaysia do to help e-commerce? And I was in the US last week, and I told one of my guys down there to take me to Best Buy, because I wanted to buy a particular product in Best Buy. And then he took me there and says, you know, I used to come to this store, like 5 years ago I used to come to this store every week and it was totally packed. Look at it now, it's empty. Those days I had to line up to play games. Now I don't even come here to buy games. Why? I buy it from Amazon. And why do people buy from Amazon? So I go like, do you buy a TV on Amazon? Yes. Do you buy a video player on Amazon? Yes. Do you buy a computer on Amazon? Yes. And why do they buy on Amazon and not on Best Buy? Or not go to the shop and buy Best, like to have a look at the computer, etc.? Biggest reason, it's more expensive in Best Buy, like 20-30% more expensive in Best Buy compared to buying it online. And guess why it's actually cheaper to buy it online? Tax. Right? So what we actually need to improve e-commerce in the country is not projects, not white elephant projects that actually need millions of funding. What we need is policy. For Digital Malaysia to change, we need strong policy changes, and strong policy changes are important because policy changes involve everybody, not just a particular company or not just a particular project or not just a particular agency. If you ask me as an ICT entrepreneur, what has MSC Malaysia helped me the most, right? And to be fair, Karam, I saw your comment that I didn't get much government support. That's not true. I actually got just to be fair, I got a 1.2 million ringgit grant from DEX, right? Which KJ John will repeat.
You guys know what DEX is, right? Demonstrator Application Grant Scheme. It was the precursor to a lot of the... Yeah? Yeah. DEX jobs. So yeah, it was the pioneer fund for IT ideas.
But to be honest, that wasn't what helped me the most. What helped MOL the most was MSC Malaysia or MSC status, right? Because you see, it's a big thing. You may think that a 10-year tax-free doesn't help you, but it's actually a big thing. Just look at valuations, right? With a 10-year tax incentive, if your profit is your profit after tax 30% lower, your valuations actually increase by 30%, right? So it's a big thing. And what is MSC Malaysia status? How does MSC Malaysia status help? It's a policy. It's not a project. It's not a grant. It's not an EPP. It's a policy. So what we need to make Digital Malaysia successful is strong policies to promote e-commerce, strong policies that can actually help everything that Digital Malaysia wants to achieve. The question then is, okay, policy is important.